Title: Silver Dragon and Crimson Magic. In a distant land, beyond the tallest mountains and the vastest seas, there lay an ancient valley, hidden from the world for centuries. It was a place of wonder and mystery, where the winds whispered secrets, and the rivers sang songs of forgotten times. At the heart of this valley stood a magnificent tree, its silver leaves shimmering like stars, and beneath it, a hidden cave that had long been sealed. One fateful evening, when the moon was full and the air was thick with magic, a great stir began within the cave. The ground trembled as the ancient seal was broken, and from the depths emerged a creature of legend, the silver dragon. Its scales gleamed like molten silver, and its wings stretched wide, casting a shadow that danced across the valley floor. Its eyes, deep and ancient, held the knowledge of millennia. The dragon had awoken from a slumber long forgotten, its power bound by the magic of the valley. At last, the dragon spoke, its voice like the sound of distant thunder. The time has come for the crimson magic to be unleashed. Long ago, a great sorceress, known as Althea, had discovered a powerful magic unlike any other. This magic was crimson in hue, and it could manipulate the very forces of nature. However, it came with a heavy price. Those who wielded it were bound by fate, and their power could only grow by drawing on the life force of the land itself. Althea, a woman of great wisdom and beauty, had used the crimson magic to protect her people from invaders. But as the years passed, the magic began to take a toll on her, draining her vitality and causing the land to wither. In a final act of desperation, Althea sealed the magic away, hoping it would never again be used. The silver dragon had been tasked with guarding the magic, ensuring that no one would ever awaken it. Yet, as time wore on, the legend faded into myth, and the valley remained forgotten. In a nearby village, a young girl named Lyra had always felt a pull towards the valley. She was different from the others. Her hair shimmered like the silver of the moon, and her eyes glowed with an inner fire. She had always felt an unexplainable connection to the land, as though it spoke to her in a language only she could understand. One day, while exploring the outskirts of the valley, Lyra stumbled upon an ancient relic, crimson crystal. As soon as she touched it, a surge of energy coursed through her, and the world around her seemed to come alive. The winds howled, and the ground beneath her feet trembled. From the shadows, the silver dragon appeared, its eyes fixed on her with a mixture of awe and apprehension. "You have found the crimson magic," it said, its voice soft but laden with power. "It has chosen you." Lyra, unsure of what she had just discovered, felt both fear and excitement. The silver dragon's words echoed in her mind, and the crystal in her hand pulsed with a life of its own. "You must be careful," the dragon warned. "The crimson magic is not something to be taken lightly. It demands sacrifice. If you are to wield it, you must understand the price." But Lyra was determined. She had always felt an emptiness within herself, a longing for something greater. The magic called to her, and she could not ignore it. With a deep breath, she focused on the crystal, and the air around her swirled with energy. A wave of crimson light burst forth, enveloping the valley in its glow. The trees, the rivers, the mountains, everything seemed to come alive as the magic was released. But with it came a darkness. The land began to wither, and shadows crept along the edges of the valley. The silver dragon's eyes widened in alarm. "You have released more than you know," it said, its voice heavy with concern. "The crimson magic has awakened, but so has its curse." As the days passed, Lyra's power grew. She could command the winds, call forth fire, and bend the earth to her will. But with each use of the crimson magic, the land around her grew more desolate. The trees that once flourished now stood barren, and the rivers that once sparkled with life now ran dry. Lyra knew that she had to stop the magic before it consumed everything. But how? She had no answers, only the dragon's words echoing in her mind. You must find the balance, the silver dragon said, appearing beside her one fateful night. The crimson magic is not inherently evil, but it must be wielded with great care. You are its guardian now. Only you can restore the land to its former glory. Lyra stood at the edge of the valley, her heart heavy with the weight of her choices. The magic had changed her, but it had also changed the land. Could she undo the damage she had caused? Could she return the crimson magic to its resting place, or would she become consumed by its power? As the moon rose high in the sky, Lyra felt a surge of energy within her. She raised the crystal high, and for the first time, she understood. The magic was not just about power, it was about harmony. She could not control it, she had to become one with it. With that realization, the crimson magic surged through her, but this time, it did not consume her. Instead, it radiated outward, restoring the land, healing the wounds she had caused. The trees began to bloom once more, the rivers sparkled with life, and the valley became a place of peace. The silver dragon, watching from afar, smiled. You have learned well, Lyra, it said. The crimson magic is not just about destruction or creation, it is about balance. Years passed, and Lyra became the guardian of the valley, a protector of the crimson magic. The land thrived, and the people who lived nearby revered her as a sorceress of great power. But Lyra knew that the true magic lay not in the power she wielded, but in the balance she had found. And so, the silver dragon, ever watchful, remained at her side. A reminder of the ancient magic that had once threatened the land and the young girl who had restored it. As the years went by, peace reigned over the valley, but the balance Lyra had worked so hard to establish was once again threatened. A dark presence began to creep across the lands, and whispers of a new force of darkness reached Lyra's ears. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a deep crimson hue across the sky, a figure appeared at the edge of the valley. This figure was unlike any Lyra had ever seen, tall and shrouded in shadow, with eyes that glowed like embers in the night. I have come for the crimson magic, the figure said, its voice low and menacing. Lyra stood firm, the silver dragon perched beside her. Who are you? And what do you seek from the magic? I am Kale, the figure answered, his voice full of malice, and I seek to wield the crimson magic for my own purposes. I will not let you stand in my way. The silver dragon growled softly, its wings unfurling. You seek destruction, Kale. The crimson magic does not belong to one such as you. Kale's lips curled into a cruel smile. You misunderstand, dragon. I do not seek destruction. I seek to harness the magic's full potential to reshape the world in my image. Lyra's heart sank. She had long known the power of the crimson magic, but the idea of someone using it for such twisted purposes filled her with dread. Kale's power was formidable. He wielded shadows like they were extensions of his own body, weaving them into forms of terror and destruction. Lyra stood her ground, the crimson crystal pulsing in her hand as she called forth the magic that had become a part of her. The valley trembled as their battle raged. Kale summoned storms of darkness, while Lyra countered with the brilliance of the crimson magic, its fiery energy lighting up the sky. The silver dragon circled above, watching for an opening, its roar echoing like thunder. You cannot defeat me, Lyra, Kale taunted, his laughter dark and cold. The crimson magic belongs to those who dare to embrace its full potential. You are weak. You still cling to the old ways, seeking balance when you could have ultimate power. Lyra's voice was steady, though her heart beat wildly. True power is not in domination, Kale. It is in the harmony between the magic and the land. If you unleash the full power of the crimson magic, it will destroy everything. You will be consumed, and so will the world. But Kale was resolute. With a violent surge, he thrust his hand forward, sending a blast of dark energy straight toward Lyra. She barely had time to react, the force of the attack sending her crashing to the ground. For a moment, it seemed as though all was lost. The valley around them trembled, the earth cracking as Kale's darkness spread. But then, the silver dragon descended from the sky, its wings beating like a storm. With a mighty roar, it unleashed a beam of radiant silver light, cutting through Kale's shadows and knocking him back. Lyra, the silver dragon called. You must remember, the magic is not for one to wield alone. You must share it with the land, with the world. Only then can you defeat him. Lyra rose, her body bruised but not broken. She understood now Kale's desire for power had blinded him to the true essence of the crimson magic. It was never meant to be controlled by one person, it was meant to be a gift, to be shared with all who were willing to protect it. Lyra closed her eyes and held the crimson crystal in her hand. The power within it surged, but this time, she did not let it control her. She reached deep within herself, calling not only on the magic but on the very spirit of the land itself, trees, the rivers, the mountains. She felt the land respond to her call, a pulse of energy that echoed through her soul. Kale, Lyra shouted, her voice ringing out with newfound strength. The magic will not bow to you. It will not be corrupted by your desire for control. Kale snarled, but before he could strike, the valley began to shift. The ground beneath him cracked open, and tendrils of crimson energy erupted from the earth, swirling around him. The magic was alive, its true power awakening. You cannot fight the will of the land, Lyra continued, her eyes glowing with power. You cannot fight the balance. The crimson light enveloped Kale, pulling him into the very earth he sought to control. His form began to fade, consumed by the magic he could not comprehend. No, Kale screamed, but his voice was lost as he was drawn into the depths of the valley, never to return. With Kale defeated, the valley slowly began to heal. The magic had been unleashed, but now it returned to its rightful place, no longer a force of destruction but a source of life and renewal. The trees that had once withered began to bloom again, the rivers ran clear and pure, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of flowers. Lyra stood at the heart of the valley, her heart calm and filled with peace. She had not only defeated Kale, but she had also restored the true balance of the crimson magic. It was no longer a force to be feared but a force to be revered. The silver dragon landed beside her, its wings folding as it lowered its head in respect. You have done it, Lyra, the dragon said. You have restored the harmony that was once lost. The land is whole once more. Lyra smiled, but there was a deep understanding in her gaze. The journey was far from over. The magic was not a burden, it was a responsibility, one that she would continue to carry, sharing its power with those who sought to protect the world, not control it. And so, the legend of the silver dragon and the crimson magic lived on. Passed down through the ages as a tale of balance, responsibility, and the power of harmony. Years had passed, and the valley, once again a peaceful and thriving land, had become a place of legend. Lyra, now known as the guardian of the crimson magic, continued to tend to the balance, her bond with the land stronger than ever. The silver dragon remained by her side, watching over the valley with wisdom in its eyes. But as the seasons changed, a new whisper began to stir on the wind, a call that came from beyond the valley. The magic, though restored, was still a power that resonated beyond the borders of the valley. Lyra could feel Itan energy beckoning from distant lands. One day, as she stood at the edge of the valley, a messenger arrived. It was a young boy, no older than 12, with eyes that shone with curiosity and wonder. "The elders of my village have sent me," the boy said, bowing respectfully. "We have heard of the crimson magic, and they believe that I am the one chosen to protect it, just as you did." Lyra regarded him carefully. He was young, but there was something in his gaze, a spark of potential, a connection to the magic that could not be ignored. She placed a hand on his shoulder, feeling the warmth of the land beneath them both. "You are not the first to be called," Lyra said gently. "The crimson magic does not choose those who seek power. It chooses those who understand its true purpose. Do you understand that purpose, young one?" The boy hesitated, then nodded. "I think I do. The magic is not meant to control, but to protect. It must be shared, not hoarded." Lyra smiled. "Then you are ready to learn. Come, let me show you the way." Lyra led the boy deep into the heart of the valley, to the ancient tree where the silver dragon once slept. The air here was thick with magic, and the ground pulsed with life. It was a place of deep power, a place where the land's spirit could be felt with every breath. "The crimson magic is a force of nature," Lyra explained as they walked. "It connects to the earth, to the water, to the fire and air. It is not something you command, but something you become one with. If you seek to wield it, you must understand all that it encompasses." The boy listened carefully, his eyes wide with awe as Lyra spoke of the magic's true nature. She guided him through the valley, showing him how to listen to the whispers of the trees, to feel the rhythms of the earth beneath his feet, and to commune with the waters that flowed through the land. "You will face trials, just as I did," Lyra said. "The magic will test you. It will seek to find your heart and challenge your intentions. Only those who remain true to the land and its balance can harness its full power." The boy nodded, determined to succeed. Over the next few weeks, he faced many challenges. Walking through fire without burning, summoning water to heal a wounded animal, and calming the winds during a violent storm. Each trial pushed him further, teaching him the importance of humility, patience, and understanding. The silver dragon, ever watchful, often appeared by their side, offering guidance and wisdom. It was clear that the boy had a long way to go, but Lyra saw the potential in Hema potential to become a true guardian of the crimson magic. But just as the boy's training reached its peak, a new threat emerged. Rumors began to spread of strange occurrences in the neighboring kingdom's wild storms, earthquakes, and even unnatural shadows that seemed to follow travelers. These were signs of a dark presence, one that had been dormant for years, now stirring once more. The boy and Lyra, with the silver dragon by their side, set out to investigate. They traveled through the mountains, across the plains, and into the forests where the disturbances were most prevalent. As they neared the source of the chaos, they came upon a hidden fortress, one that had long been abandoned. Inside, they found traces of dark magic, ancient symbols etched into the stone walls, a magic that felt both familiar and twisted. It was Kale's magic, his shadowy influence still lingering despite his defeat. "How could this be?" Lyra murmured, her heart heavy with dread. "Kale is gone. The magic should have been sealed." The silver dragon spoke, its voice grave. "The magic was not fully destroyed. It was only suppressed. And now, someone else has awakened it." From the shadows, a figure emerged, a cloaked woman, her eyes glowing with the same ember-like hue that Kale had once possessed. She was the one behind the disturbances, the one who had found Kale's dark legacy and sought to master it. "I am Kayla," the woman said, her voice cold and filled with power. "And I will finish what he started. The crimson magic will be mine." Lyra stepped forward, the crimson crystal glowing in her hand. "You are mistaken," she said, her voice firm. "The crimson magic is not for those who seek to dominate. It is a gift that must be shared with the land. You cannot control it. Kayla's laugh echoed through the chamber. You think you can stop me? I have already begun to bend the magic to my will. And soon, the world will be mine to shape. The air grew thick with tension as Lyra and Kayla prepared for their final battle. The valley's magic pulsed, as if it, too, was aware of the impending conflict. Lyra's heart raced, but she knew that this battle was not just for her, it was for the land, for the balance of the crimson magic itself. Kayla raised her hands, and the shadows around her grew, swirling into violent tendrils that lashed out at Lyra. The boy, now standing beside her, summoned a protective barrier of crimson energy to shield them both. Remember what you've learned, Lyra said to him. The magic is not just power. It is the land, the people, and the heart. With a deep breath, Lyra called upon the crimson magic, her crystal glowing brighter than ever before. The earth beneath them trembled as the valley responded to her call. The magic surged, not as a weapon, but as a force of nature, fire, water, air, and earth all converging in a brilliant wave of energy. Kayla screamed as the magic overwhelmed her, the shadows retreating as the land's pure energy flowed through the fortress. The dark magic that had corrupted her body began to unravel, and her power faded away. In the end, the valley was safe. Kayla was no more, and the crimson magic had been restored to its rightful place. With the darkness vanquished, Lyra and the boy returned to the valley. He had proven himself as a worthy successor, having learned the true nature of the crimson magic. The silver dragon looked on proudly, its wings spreading wide as the sun rose over the land. You have done well, the dragon said. The balance has been restored. And now, you, like Lyra before you, will become the guardian of the crimson magic. The boy, now fully aware of the responsibility he had taken on, nodded solemnly. I will protect the land. I will keep the balance. Lyra smiled, proud of the young guardian who had risen to the challenge. The magic is not an end, but a beginning, she said softly. The world is full of wonders, and it is up to you to share the magic with those who understand its true purpose. And so, the legacy of the silver dragon and the crimson magic continued. As a new generation of guardians rose to protect the land and its power, ensuring that harmony and balance would always prevail. With the defeat of Kayla and the restoration of the crimson magic, peace returned once more to the valley. The boy, now the guardian of the crimson magic, spent his days with Lyra, learning and growing stronger in his connection to the magic. The silver dragon remained by their side, its wings a constant presence in the sky above. But there was something new on the horizon, something Lyra could feel in the very air. The magic had stabilized, but there were whispers of distant stars of a power beyond the realm of the valley. A power that called to the crimson magic from the heavens themselves. One night, as the moon rose high and the stars shone brighter than ever before, Lyra and the boy stood at the edge of the valley, gazing upward. The air felt charged, as if the very stars were speaking to them. There is a power in the stars, Lyra said softly, her voice filled with a quiet awe. I can feel it, calling to the crimson magic. It is a power we have yet to fully understand. The boy, now more attuned to the magic than ever before, looked up as well, his eyes narrowing. What do you think it means? I don't know, Lyra answered. But I have a sense that our journey is far from over. The crimson magic is not just tied to the land, it is connected to something far greater, something beyond the earth itself. The silver dragon, sensing the shift in the air, landed beside them, its great wings folding. The stars have always held secrets, it said. There is much more to the magic than you have seen. It is not only a force of this world, but one that spans across realms. Lyra turned to the silver dragon, her eyes filled with determination. Then we must answer the call. We must seek what lies beyond the valley. The decision was made. Lyra, the boy, and the silver dragon would leave the valley to answer the call of the stars. Their journey would take them far beyond the familiar lands they had known, into regions of wild magic and untold mysteries. They traveled through forests untouched by time, across seas that shimmered with colors no one had seen before, and into mountains that touched the sky. Along the way, they encountered creatures and beings of magic, some benevolent, others not so much. But through each trial, the boy grew stronger in his understanding of the crimson magic, and Lyra, ever the wise guide, continued to teach him the true meaning of harmony. One evening, after weeks of travel, they reached the edge of an ancient desert, a place where the sands glittered like stardust. The air here was thick with magic, and the stars seemed closer than ever. The boy could feel it in his chest, the pulse of the universe calling to him. "This is it," Lyra said, her voice filled with reverence. "We have arrived." The silver dragon spread its wings, its mighty form casting a shadow over the desert sands. "Beyond this desert lies the Temple of Stars," it explained. "There, you will find the answers you seek. But beware, the journey ahead is not without danger." They crossed the desert, the heat and the magic pressing down on them. As they neared the Temple of Stars, a strange stillness settled over the land. The temple stood in the distance, a towering structure carved from the stone itself, its walls adorned with celestial symbols. The entrance to the Temple of Stars was guarded by an ancient force, an ethereal being of light, its form shifting like the stars themselves. It spoke without words, a voice that echoed in their minds. "To enter, you must prove your understanding of the crimson magic," it said. "You must show that you are worthy to unlock the secrets of the stars." Lyra stepped forward, the boy by her side. She knew what was required. This trial would test more than their strength. It would test their hearts. "The crimson magic," Lyra said, "is not a force to control. It is a power of balance, of harmony. It connects all things earth, water, fire, air, and it is through understanding these elements that we find true strength." The boy, now standing tall beside her, added, "The magic is not for one to wield alone. It must be shared, with love and care, to protect the balance of all things." The celestial being considered their words for a long moment, its form shifting as though the very stars were whispering in response. Then, it nodded, and the massive stone doors of the temple slowly creaked open. "Enter, and discover the truth that lies within," it said. Inside the Temple of Stars, the walls shimmered with the light of 1,000 constellations. The air was thick with magic, and the floor seemed to pulse with an ancient rhythm. In the center of the temple stood a pedestal, and upon it rested a crystal that glowed with the light of the stars themselves. "This is the Starstone," Lyra said, her voice reverberating in the temple. "It is said to be the source of the magic that binds all things in the universe." The boy stepped forward, his heart racing. He could feel the power of the Starstone calling to him, a force that was both familiar and unlike anything he had ever known. It was as though the very fabric of the world itself was woven into this stone. "To understand the true nature of the crimson magic," Lyra continued, "you must first understand its origin. The magic comes not from this world, but from the stars, from the very forces that bind the universe together. It is the harmony of all things, the earth, the sky, the stars. The balance of life itself." As the boy reached out to touch the Starstone, the entire temple seemed to come alive. The light of the stars flared brighter, and the ground beneath them trembled. In that moment, the boy understood the crimson magic was not just a power. It was the pulse of the universe, the energy that sustained all life. After their time in the Temple of Stars, Lyra and the boy returned to the valley. The knowledge they had gained had changed them both, deepening their understanding of the crimson magic and its place in the world. The boy, now a true guardian of the magic, stood alongside Lyra as they gazed upon the valley. The land that had been their home and where the magic had first flourished. The silver dragon, ever watchful, stood beside them. The journey is not over, it said. The stars have shown you the path, but there is still much to learn. Lyra smiled, the weight of their journey clear in her eyes. Yes, but now we know that the magic is not just of this world. It is a part of the universe itself, a force that binds all things together. And as long as we honor that connection, we will keep the balance. And so, the story of the silver dragon and the crimson magic continued, as the boy, now a true guardian, took up the mantle of protector not only of the valley but of the magic that flowed through the stars, the earth, and the very heart of the world itself. As the years passed, the valley flourished under the guardianship of the boy, now a young man, and Lyra. The connection between the crimson magic and the land had become stronger than ever. And its protective influence had spread to the farthest corners of the valley. Yet, Lyra could sense a new disturbance on the horizon, a shift in the air that unsettled her. One evening, as she sat beside the river, watching the sun set behind the mountains, a familiar voice interrupted her thoughts. It was the silver dragon, its form outlined by the golden glow of dusk. "Something stirs in the distance," the dragon said, its tone serious. "The harmony you have worked so hard to restore is in danger." Lyra's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "The magic is stable, the land is at peace. The balance is delicate," the dragon replied, its eyes narrowing as it gazed toward the horizon. "A new force is emerging. It is not of darkness, but of something unfamiliar. It seeks to unravel the threads of harmony in ways you may not understand." Lyra stood, her heart heavy with the weight of the dragon's words. "We must find out more. We cannot let whatever this is threaten the balance of the crimson magic." Lyra, the boy, and the silver dragon embarked on a new journey to discover the source of the disturbance. The winds grew colder as they traveled, and the air itself seemed to hum with tension. The world around them seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. They traveled across vast plains and through ancient forests, seeking answers. Along the way, they encountered other guardians of the land beings who wielded their own forms of magic, each connected to different elements of nature. There were healers, warriors, and protectors, all bound to the earth in their own ways. One evening, as they made camp beneath a star-filled sky, a strange figure approached, a woman cloaked in silver, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. She spoke without introduction, her voice carrying the weight of the ages. "I have been watching you, guardian of the crimson magic," the woman said, her voice soft but powerful. "Your journey has brought you here, but you are not the only ones who seek to understand the balance." Lyra stood, her gaze steady. "Who are you?" The woman smiled faintly. "I am a wanderer, a traveler of realms. I seek knowledge of the ancient forces, those that govern the flow of magic across worlds. The disturbance you feel is not of this world, it is the awakening of an ancient energy, a force that exists beyond the stars." The boy, standing beside Lyra, frowned. "A force beyond the stars?" "Yes," the woman replied. "It is a power that predates even the crimson magic. It is the essence of creation itself, a force that shaped the universe in its infancy. And now, it is awakening, calling to the crimson magic and to the guardians who protect it." The woman's words echoed in Lyra's mind as they continued their journey. The disturbance grew stronger, a force that seemed to ripple through the fabric of the world. The closer they got to the source, the more they felt the pull of the ancient energy. At last, they arrived at a great chasm. a rift in the earth that seemed to stretch on forever. The air here crackled with power, and the sky above was darkened by swirling clouds of energy. The silver dragon landed beside them, its wings folding in response to the immense power that surged from the rift. "This is the source," the woman said, her voice trembling. "The energy you feel is the awakening of the primordial force, the essence that once shaped all magic. It is not of this world, but of the very core of existence itself." Lyra's heart raced as she looked into the rift. It was as if the very fabric of reality was beginning to tear open. The crimson magic pulsed in her chest, reacting to the energy that emanated from the rift. "The primordial force," she said quietly. "It must be sealed. If it merges with the crimson magic, it could destroy the balance forever." The boy, now fully aware of the responsibility he carried, stepped forward. "We cannot let that happen. But how do we stop it?" The woman's expression darkened. "The primordial force cannot be destroyed. It is the foundation of all magic. But it can be sealed, if you understand its nature. You must reach into the heart of the rift and bind the force to its rightful place." Lyra's gaze hardened with determination. "Then we must do it." As the silver dragon took flight, watching from above, Lyra and the boy approached the rift. The energy within it was overwhelming, like the heart of a star, pulsing and swirling with raw power. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the very air seemed to hum with magic. Lyra held out her hands, her connection to the crimson magic flaring as she called upon its power. The boy mirrored her actions, his own magic responding as he stood by her side. Together, they reached for the energy of the rift, feeling the pull of the primordial force trying to break free. "We must remember," Lyra said, her voice calm despite the chaos around them. "The crimson magic is not about control. It is about balance. We must bind this force without bending it to our will." The boy nodded, focusing on the energy as Lyra had taught him. They reached out together, their hands glowing with the light of the crimson magic. As they touched the edge of the rift, the energy surged, trying to pull them in. But they stood firm, their connection to the magic strong. The stars above seemed to respond to their efforts, a bright light shining down upon them as they held the rift in place. Slowly, they began to draw the primordial force back into its rightful place, sealing it away from the world. The rift began to close, the energy dissipating into the sky like stardust. With one final pulse, the rift sealed completely, and the air grew still. The disturbance had ended, and the valley was once again at peace. The primordial force had been sealed, its energy returned to its rightful place in the cosmos. Lyra, the boy, and the silver dragon stood together, their hearts filled with relief. "You have done it," the woman said, her voice filled with awe. "The balance has been restored." Lyra smiled, her eyes filled with gratitude. "The magic is not a weapon to be wielded. It is a force to be understood, to be respected. And as long as we remain true to that, the balance will always be preserved." The boy nodded, his heart at peace. "The journey is never truly over, is it?" "No," Lyra replied, her gaze softening. "The journey never ends. There will always be more to learn, more to protect. But together, we will ensure that the magic remains in harmony with the world." And so, the guardians of the crimson magic, the silver dragon, and the travelers of realms continued to watch over the balance of all things. The world was vast, and the magic was endless, but with wisdom, courage, and unity, they knew that they could protect it for generations to come. With the primordial force sealed and the world restored to balance, the valley once again thrived. The boy, now fully grown into his role as guardian of the crimson magic, stood on the edge of a great cliff overlooking the land. The silver dragon, ever watchful, perched beside him, its eyes reflecting the quiet peace that had settled over the world. Lyra approached them, her steps light and steady, her face a mirror of contentment. "The valley is peaceful again," she said softly. "But I sense a new chapter is about to begin." The boy nodded, his gaze unwavering as he took in the vast landscape before them. "The magic has found its place once more. The world is in harmony, but I can feel that something still stirs, just beyond the horizon." The silver dragon lifted its head, sensing the same shift in the air. "There is always something new, something unknown," it said. "The magic of the universe is ever changing, and as its guardians, we must remain vigilant." "But we are ready." Lyra smiled, her eyes filled with both wisdom and hope. "Yes, we are. The journey may never truly end, but it is in our hands to ensure that the balance of magic is protected. We are its stewards, and we must carry the knowledge we've gained to guide future generations." The boy turned to her, his heart full of gratitude. "I never imagined I would come this far. I was just a boy when you first taught me about the crimson magic, and now, I stand here as its guardian." "And you have done more than I could have ever hoped," Lyra said, her voice filled with pride. "You are ready to carry this responsibility forward, to continue learning and growing, as we all must." As the years passed, the boy, now a man, fulfilled his role as guardian of the crimson magic with wisdom and care. The valley flourished, its people living in harmony with the magic. Under his guidance, new guardians arose, each learning to wield the magic in their own way, understanding its delicate balance and its deep connection to the land and the stars. One day, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with vibrant hues of red and gold, a group of young apprentices arrived at the valley. They were eager to learn, their hearts filled with a burning desire to understand the magic that had shaped the world they now inhabited. Among them was a young girl, her eyes wide with wonder as she gazed upon the silver dragon. Her heart, though still untrained, seemed to resonate with the power of the crimson magic, her presence as if destined to walk the path of the guardians. The boy, now the guardian of the crimson magic, stepped forward, welcoming them with open arms. "You have come at a time when the magic is strong," he said. "But remember, the power you seek is not one of domination. It is one of balance, of understanding. It connects us all, from the smallest creature to the stars themselves." The girl stepped forward, her voice trembling with both excitement and respect. "I want to learn. I want to protect the magic, just as you have." Lyra, standing beside the boy, smiled warmly. "You will learn, in time. And you will understand that the greatest strength comes not from wielding magic, but from embracing the responsibility it brings." The silver dragon gave a low, rumbling growl of approval. The next generation of guardians has arrived. The future of the magic is in good hands. As the years turned into decades, the valley continued to thrive under the stewardship of the guardians. The boy, now an elder, passed down the wisdom of the crimson magic to the new generation, teaching them not only how to harness its power but also how to live in harmony with the world around them. Lyra, ever the wise guide, remained by his side, her role as mentor and protector just as vital as ever. Together, they watched as the young guardians grew and flourished, each finding their own way to contribute to the world's balance. The silver dragon, though ancient, still soared high above, its wings casting a shadow over the valley, ever vigilant, ever proud of the legacy it had helped to create. The legacy of the crimson magic lived on, a testament to the bond between the earth, the sky, and the stars. The guardians carried this legacy forward, knowing that they were not just protectors of magic, but protectors of the balance that connected all things. One final evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, the boy, now an old man, stood once again at the edge of the cliff, gazing at the valley below. His heart was full of peace, knowing that the world he had fought to protect would continue to thrive, passed down to future generations. Lyra, now an elder herself, stood beside him, her gaze soft and filled with gratitude. "The magic has been entrusted to a new generation," she said, her voice calm. "Our work is done." The silver dragon landed beside them, its great wings folding with a grace that belied its age. "The cycle continues," it said. "New guardians will rise, new challenges will come. But the balance will remain, as long as there are those who are willing to protect it." The boy, now a man of wisdom, turned to Lyra and the silver dragon, his heart full of love for all that had been accomplished. "Thank you," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "For everything. For teaching me, for guiding me, and for showing me the true meaning of the magic." Lyra smiled, her eyes twinkling with a lifetime of experiences. "You were always meant to be the guardian. And now, you will pass on the knowledge to others. That is the true legacy of the crimson magic." And as the last light of the day faded into night, the valley below was filled with the soft, shimmering glow of the crimson magic. A light that would never fade, as long as the guardians continued to protect it. Generations passed, and the valley flourished under the stewardship of the new guardians. The world continued its cycle, with the forces of nature, magic, and life flowing through every corner of the earth. Yet, within the quiet of the night, a soft whisper began to stir in the air, a ripple in the magic that had long been at rest. In the heart of the valley, in the ancient temple that stood as a symbol of the magic's roots, an old relicence thought to be dormant began to glow. It was the first sign of an old prophecy, one that had been etched into the temple walls by the very hands of Lyra and the original guardians. The prophecy spoke of a time when the crimson magic would once again face a Testone that would require the strength and unity of both old and new guardians. A young apprentice named Alara, who had recently begun her studies under the latest generation of guardians, was the first to notice the glow. The relic, a crystal sphere, pulsed with a faint crimson light, sending ripples through the air that resonated with the magic of the valley. Alara felt a tug in her chest, a sense of familiarity as if she had touched something ancient, something destined. She hesitated, wondering if she should tell her masters, but a sense of urgency filled her. She knew, deep within, that the time had come. Word of the strange event spread quickly through the valley. The current guardians, including those who had studied the ancient ways, gathered in the temple, their faces a mixture of curiosity and concern. At the heart of it all, Alara stood before the glowing relic, unsure of what to make of the mysterious light. One of the senior guardians, a wise elder named Adrian, stepped forward. "This relic, it is part of the prophecy," he said, his voice solemn. "When the crimson magic was first bound, it was sealed by a pact on and spoken promise between the forces of creation and those who would safeguard it. The relic has been waiting, all this time, for the moment it is needed." "What is the test?" Alara asked, her voice trembling with both excitement and fear. Adrian gazed at the relic, his eyes narrowing. "The prophecy speaks of a disturbance greater than any we have faced. A force that could threaten the very foundation of the crimson magic. It is not an enemy, but a challenge, a trial that will test the strength and unity of the guardians, both old and new." The silver dragon, now a figure of myth in the eyes of the younger guardians, appeared at the temple's entrance. Its presence as majestic and powerful as it had been when it first soared above the valley. Its eyes glowed with a deep, ancient wisdom. "The time has come," the silver dragon said. "The balance we have worked to protect is about to face its greatest trial. It is not the power of the crimson magic alone that will save us, but the wisdom of those who understand it." Lyra, who had always been present in spirit, appeared next to the relic, her ethereal form glowing faintly, her presence comforting yet filled with an unspoken sorrow. "We have seen this moment before," she whispered. "The world has always faced trials, and we must be ready." Alara, feeling the weight of those words, stepped forward. "I will take on the trial. I will do what it takes to protect the crimson magic." The relic's glow grew stronger, and the ground trembled as the temple's doors opened. Beyond them, a vast expanse stretched, one unlike anything the Guardians had seen before. A darkened sky loomed above, and the air was thick with an unsettling energy. Alara, surrounded by the other Guardians, felt a surge of uncertainty but also a sense of purpose. The trial had begun. She could hear the echoes of past Guardians whispering in her ears, their wisdom guiding her every step. A deep voice, like thunder, boomed from the dark sky. "You who walk in the shadows of the past, are you prepared to face the future? The balance you protect has been questioned, and the power of creation itself will be tested." A new force, neither light nor dark, emerged from the shadows, a being composed of shifting energies. It was not malevolent, but it exuded an overwhelming presence that seemed to challenge the very essence of the crimson magic. It spoke again, its voice like 1,000 whispers combined. "I am the awakening, the force that has slept for eons. You seek to protect the balance, but can you truly control the power you wield?" Alara stepped forward, the relic still glowing at her side. "We do not seek to control. We seek only to protect. The balance between all forces is fragile, but it is not meant to be dominated. We guard it not as conquerors, but as stewards." The awakening let out a low laugh, a sound that reverberated through the very core of existence. "Your words are noble, young one, but can you truly understand the price of harmony? What is the true cost of maintaining the balance you speak of?" Alara's heart pounded, but her resolve was unwavering. The cost is sacrifice, and the responsibility of keeping that balance lies not in one person, but in all who are willing to protect it. It is a shared burden, a shared strength. The dark force before them shifted, its form becoming more fluid, more like a swirling mass of energy. "Then prove it," it said, its voice a challenge. "Show me that the Guardians, old and new, can unite in the face of this trial." The challenge was set. The Valley's Guardians, from the most ancient to the newest, were bound together in a single moment of unity. Alara extended her hand, and the other Guardians joined in, their magic connecting in a web of crimson light. The silver dragon soared above them, its wings glowing with the energy of the earth itself. Together, they focused all their strength into the relic, channeling their collective will and wisdom into the very core of the awakening. The dark force writhed, but the Guardians held firm, knowing that the only way to preserve the balance was through unity. As the trial continued, the collective power of the Guardians proved stronger than the force that sought to unravel the magic. The awakening, realizing the depth of their resolve, finally relented, its form dispersing into a shimmering light. "You have passed the trial," the voice of the awakening echoed. "But remember, the balance is never fixed. It will always shift, and you must be ready for the challenges that come. The magic you protect is not a prize, it is a responsibility." The relic's glow faded, and the sky cleared as the energy of the trial dispersed. Alara, exhausted but triumphant, turned to her fellow Guardians, the silver dragon, and the ethereal form of Lyra, who now smiled with approval. "The trial is over," Lyra said softly. "The balance has been tested and upheld. But this is only one chapter of many. It is your time now, Alara, to carry this legacy forward." Alara nodded, her heart full of purpose. "I will protect the balance, just as those before me have done." And so, the new Guardians took up their roles, ever vigilant, knowing that the trials of the world would continue. But as long as they stood together, the magic would endure, and the balance would remain. As the seasons changed, Alara grew into her role as the guardian of the crimson magic. She found herself more attuned to the subtle shifts in the magic around Hero Breeze. Each rustle of the trees. Each whisper of the ancient forces that governed the valley. But something was different now. The energy in the air was no longer as stable as it once had been. Strange omens began to appear. Crops in the valley grew in odd patterns. Some flowers bloomed where they never had before, and others withered inexplicably. The guardians who had once lived in harmony with the land now felt uneasy. Alara stood alone on the temple's highest balcony, gazing out into the distance. The valley stretched before her, peaceful but seemingly fragile. The silver dragon, perched atop the temple roof, noticed her growing worry and flew down to her side. "You feel it too, don't you?" the silver dragon's voice rumbled, deep and knowing. "The winds are shifting." Alara nodded solemnly. "Something is off. The balance. It feels as if it's being pulled in different directions. I've heard whispers among the people, rumors of a dark force awakening. Do you think the trial we faced before was only a forewarning?" The silver dragon's eyes gleamed with concern, its long tail flicking with unease. "Perhaps. The power that stirs is ancient, older than even the crimson magic. It may be that the world itself is changing, and with that change, the magic will face new challenges. We must prepare, for I sense something vast is coming." In the days that followed, Alara sought guidance from her fellow guardians. The eldest among them, Adrian, had lived through many ages and was well versed in the ancient lore. He, too, had noticed the subtle changes in the world and had studied the signs. "The land is restless," he said, his voice grave. "There are old forces, those from the time before the first guardians, that are stirring. Some call them the Forgotten Ones. They are not evil, but their presence is disruptive. They remember a time before balance, a time when magic was uncontrolled, wild, and untamed." "Could they threaten the crimson magic?" Alara asked, her heart heavy. Adrian nodded slowly. "They could. If they return, they might attempt to reclaim what was once lost. But we cannot face them with fear. We must understand them, learn from them, and decide whether they can coexist with the magic we protect or if they must be kept at bay." Alara's determination solidified. "Then we must find them. We must understand what they seek and ensure that the balance remains." The journey to find the Forgotten Ones took Alara and her companions deep into the ancient forests, far beyond the borders of the valley. The air grew thick with mist, and the trees seemed to close in around them, their branches like reaching arms. It was as if the forest itself held secrets long buried. The silver dragon flew overhead, its sharp eyes scanning the terrain, while Adrian led the group with quiet confidence. The young guardians, Alara's closest allies, followed closely behind, each one filled with a mix of awe and fear. After days of travel, they reached the heart of the Foreston area, untouched by time, where the air hummed with a strange energy. Here, the very earth seemed alive, pulsating with an ancient magic that had long been dormant. In the center of this sacred place stood a massive stone altar, covered in vines and moss, with symbols carved into its surface. "This is it," Adrian whispered. "The place where the Forgotten Ones first emerged long ago. We must tread carefully. These beings are not like any others we have encountered." As Alara approached the altar, the air grew heavier, and the ground trembled. Slowly, the figures of the Forgotten Ones began to materialize, shadows at first, then more solid forms. Tall, humanoid beings cloaked in flowing robes of shimmering light, their faces obscured by hoods. "You have come," one of them spoke, their voice a whisper that echoed in Alara's mind. "The guardians of the crimson magic seek to understand us. But are you ready for the truth?" Alara stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. We seek peace. We seek to protect the balance. We do not wish to fight, but we cannot allow the forces of chaos to unravel the world we have worked so hard to build. The Forgotten One regarded her silently, their eyes glowing faintly beneath their hoods. The balance you protect is a fragile illusion. It is only one version of the world, one that has been shaped by your hands and the hands of your ancestors. But what if there is another path? What if the world you have built is not the only path to harmony? Alara's mind whirled with the weight of the question. Was the world she had worked so hard to protect truly the best path for all? Could there be another way to restore the balance that did not involve maintaining the current order? The Forgotten Ones revealed to Alara the truth of the world's creation. The magic that had once flowed freely, before the Guardians had established the delicate balance. In their view, the Crimson Magic was but one iteration of what could be manifestation of a world that had been guided by the hands of the few, rather than the forces of nature and creation itself. You must choose, Alara, one of the Forgotten Ones said. Will you continue to protect the world of balance, or will you allow the magic to flow freely once more, with all its untamed power? Alara felt the weight of the decision press upon her chest. If she chose to let the crimson magic return to its raw form, there was no telling what would happen. The world could be transformed, perhaps even destroyed, or perhaps reborn in ways no one could predict. But if she chose to maintain the balance, she would be upholding the system that had kept the world safe for generations. Was it worth preserving a world built on such fragile equilibrium, even if it came at a cost? Alara closed her eyes, her mind clear as she thought of everything she had learned, the teachings of Lyra, the wisdom of the silver dragon, the strength of the Guardians, and the legacy they all shared. With a deep breath, she made her choice. I choose balance, she said, her voice firm with resolve. The world we protect may not be perfect, but it is ours to safeguard. The magic we wield is not a weapon, but a gift. We must guide it, not allow it to run wild. The Forgotten Ones stood in silence for a moment, before nodding slowly. You have made your choice, Alara. The balance will hold for now. But remember, the world will always change. And with each change, you must choose again. The Guardians left the ancient forest, knowing the choice had been made, but aware that the future was never truly fixed. The winds of magic would always shift, and with each passing day, the Guardians would be called to protect the balance once more. Alara returned to the valley, the weight of her decision resting heavily on her shoulders. The world around her seemed unchanged, but she knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The Guardians, young and old, gathered in the temple to hear of her meeting with the Forgotten Ones. She stepped into the center of the circle, her heart pounding, and began to speak. The Forgotten Ones have shown me another path, a path that could change everything. They believe that the world we have worked to protect is a fragile illusion. A balance created by our hands, not by the forces of nature. They have offered me a choice to let the magic flow freely, or to continue to protect the fragile balance. There was a deep silence among the gathered Guardians. Adrian, the eldest and most revered of them all, stepped forward, his eyes reflecting a mixture of concern and wisdom. What will you do, Alara? What will become of the crimson magic? Alara closed her eyes, her thoughts focused on the winds of change that had begun to stir. I chose the path of balance, she said softly. The world we've built may not be perfect, but it is ours to protect. We must guard the magic we have been given, guiding it, not letting it become wild and untamed. The balance is not just a system, it is a responsibility. The Guardians murmured among themselves. Some nodded in agreement, while others remained unsure. The silver dragon, who had been listening quietly from the shadows, now stepped forward. The path ahead is fraught with uncertainty. The winds will shift again, and we must be ready for whatever comes. Adrian's voice carried a note of caution. But we cannot afford to become complacent. There are forces beyond our understanding, forces that might test our resolve. The Forgotten Ones may not be finished with us yet. Days passed, and Alara kept watch over the valley, her heart ever restless. One night, as the silver moon rose high in the sky, a strange energy filled the air. The magic that had once been a constant hum now pulsed erratically, as though the earth itself was shaking beneath the weight of some unseen force. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and the sky above the valley darkened. Alara's heart raced. Something was coming. The silver dragon appeared beside her, its eyes glowing with a warning. The disturbance is growing. There is something beneath the surface of the world, something old and dangerous. Adrian arrived, his face grim. We must go to the heart of the valley, to the well of magic. There, we may find the source of this disturbance. If we do not act quickly, the entire valley could fall into chaos. Without hesitation, Alara gathered the guardians, and together they set off toward the heart of the valley, a place where the crimson magic had been sealed long ago. As they traveled, the very earth seemed to grow more restless, the trees bending as if trying to escape the dark force that was rising. When they reached the well of magic, the air grew thick with a dark energy, and the water in the well began to churn violently. A deep, hollow voice echoed from the depths. You have chosen your path, Alara, the voice rumbled. But balance is not enough. You cannot control the forces that stir within the world. The magic belongs to all, and it will return to its true form whether you are ready or not. Alara felt the earth tremble beneath her feet, and the sky above crackled with dark lightning. The energy that had once been stable and harmonious now seemed to bend and twist into something dangerous. We must stop it, Alara shouted. The magic cannot be allowed to run wild again. The well of magic began to crack open, the ancient stone crumbling as dark tendrils of energy spiraled upward. The silver dragon spread its wings wide, its roar echoing through the valley. We must seal it once more, Alara. The magic cannot be allowed to escape. If we do not act, it will consume everything. But the darkness swirled around them, filling the air with whispers of forgotten powers. Alara felt the pull of the crimson magic deep within her chest, as though the very essence of the magic was calling out to her. She reached out with her hands, trying to grasp the power, but it slipped through her fingers like smoke. The guardians began to chant in unison, their voices carrying the ancient incantations that had once sealed the magic in the first place. But the dark energy fought back, swirling and pulsing in defiance. The air crackled with raw power, and the ground beneath them trembled. Alara's heart raced as she felt the pull of the crimson magic. She could sense its power, wild and untamed, surging through the valley. If she didn't act quickly, it would tear the world apart. Suddenly, a voice clear and commanding cut through the chaos. Enough. The air stilled as the voice echoed through the valley. From the depths of the well of magic, a figure emerged. Cloaked in shadows, with eyes glowing like molten silver, the figure stepped into the light. Alara, you have chosen balance, the figure said, its voice both soothing and terrifying. But there are forces at play here that you cannot comprehend. The crimson magic is not yours to control. It is the force of creation itself, and it will follow its own path. The guardians backed away, their expressions a mixture of fear and awe. The silver dragon, too, lowered its head, recognizing the power of the figure before them. This is not the end, the figure continued. But it is a turning point. The magic will no longer be contained. The path you have chosen will bring its own consequences, just as the path of the Forgotten Ones would have. The choice was yours to make. But remember, Alara, balance is a fragile thing. With those final words, the figure vanished, leaving only the pulsing energy of the crimson magic behind. The well of magic, once a place of serenity, was now a swirling vortex of power. The valley seemed to tremble with every passing second, as if the very foundation of the world was being rewritten. Alara stood at the center of it all, her heart heavy with the weight of her decision. She had chosen balance, but now she wondered if that choice had been enough. Had she made the right call? Was the world truly meant to be guided by the guardians, or was the crimson magic destined to flow freely, wild and untamed? The guardians gathered around her, their faces filled with uncertainty. Adrian spoke first, his voice quiet. The magic is no longer under our control. We must face what is to come, together. Alara nodded, a sense of resolve settling over her. The path ahead was uncertain, but she would not face it alone. The balance may have been shattered, but a new world was emerging, one that would be shaped by the choices they made. The future is unwritten, Alara said, her voice steady. But we will write it together. In the days following the disturbance at the Well of Magic, the valley stood at a crossroads. The guardians, once certain of their purpose, now found themselves caught in a web of uncertainty. The energy that had burst from the well did not subside. Instead, it spread like cracks in the very fabric of the land, distorting the world around them. The earth trembled with every passing moment, and the sky above flickered with strange colors, shades of crimson, violet, and gold mixing into swirling clouds of magic. Adrian and the other guardians tried to channel the magic, but each time they attempted to contain it, the forces resisted, pushing back with growing power. Alara stood atop the temple's highest balcony, staring at the horizon. The silver dragon perched by her side, its eyes narrowed in concentration as it watched the disturbances in the air. The world is changing before our eyes, Alara said quietly, almost to herself. We made our choice, but now the very foundation of reality seems to be unraveling. What did we truly unleash at the Well of Magic? The silver dragon turned to her, its voice filled with both sorrow and resolve. The crimson magic was never meant to be controlled by any one force. It is the pulse of life, the heartbeat of creation. Now that it has been set loose, the world will shift. The balance you sought to preserve was only a temporary state. We must find a way to adapt, or the magic will destroy everything we know. Alara's heart clenched. She had never wanted to unleash chaos, she had only sought to protect the world. But now, the very thing she had tried to hold steady had become a force too vast to control. There had to be another way. Desperation led Alara to seek out ancient knowledge. She turned to Adrian, who had studied the lore of the world for centuries. Together, they scoured the temple's hidden archives, uncovering long-forgotten scrolls and relics. One particular text caught Alara's attention. It was an ancient prophecy, written in a language only the oldest guardians could decipher. The prophecy spoke of a time when the crimson magic would be freed, and the world would be torn asunder. But it also spoke of a seeker of truth, a person who could bring both destruction and salvation. Alara's breath caught as she read the words, when the world is fractured, and the magic of creation runs wild, the seeker shall be born. Not from the earth, but from the sky. They shall hold both the sword of light and the flame of the dark. Only the seeker can restore the balance that has been lost. She looked up at Adrian, her voice trembling with a mix of hope and fear. Could this be referring to me? Adrian nodded gravely. Perhaps. But you must understand, Alara, the seeker is not merely a title, it is a burden. To bear the sword of light and the flame of the dark is to walk a path fraught with sacrifice. The seeker's journey is not just about restoring balance, it is about understanding the very nature of magic itself, embracing both its light and its shadow. Alara's thoughts swirled. Could she truly be the seeker? Could she bridge the divide between creation and destruction, light and darkness? And if so, what would be the cost? The prophecy spoke of a sky-born being, and Alara knew that she would have to journey beyond the known world to find the answers she sought. A deep pull in her heart led her to the ancient temple of the sky, a place that had been abandoned for centuries. It was said that the temple held the answers to the mysteries of creation and the forces that governed the universe. Alara, the silver dragon, and a small group of guardians set off toward the distant mountains, where the temple of the sky was said to lie. As they traveled, the land grew even more distorted, with parts of the valley now sinking into the earth and others rising in strange formations, like jagged spires of rock. The crimson magic had twisted reality itself, and the world seemed to be shifting every day. When they reached the temple, Alara was struck by the sheer majesty of the place. The temple was perched high on a mountain peak, surrounded by swirling clouds of magical energy. It seemed as though the sky itself had embraced the temple, as though it had always been meant to reside there. Inside, the walls were etched with symbols of light and shadow, of creation and destruction. It was a place of balance yet also a place of profound mystery. Alara stepped forward, feeling the weight of her destiny settle upon her. As she approached the center of the temple, a figure appeared, a being made of light and shadow, neither fully one nor the other. It was the guardian of the sky, a being who had existed since the dawn of time, watching over the forces of creation. "You have come, Seeker," the guardian said, its voice a harmonious blend of both light and darkness. "I have awaited you, for you are the one who will face the greatest trial of all. The world is fractured, and only you can heal it. But you must first understand the true nature of magic." Alara swallowed hard. How can I restore balance when the very world itself is breaking apart? What is the true nature of magic? The guardian smiled, though its face remained an enigma. Magic is both a gift and a curse. It is not a force that can be controlled, only understood. To wield the power of creation and destruction is to embrace the duality of existence. Light and shadow, life and death, they are two sides of the same coin. The trick is to find harmony between them. Alara's mind raced. She had always believed that balance meant keeping the forces in check, preventing them from clashing. But now, she saw that true balance was not about control, it was about acceptance of the dual nature of existence. "The choice is yours, Seeker," the guardian continued. "You must decide whether to restore the old order, or to create something new, something that embraces both the light and the dark. The path you choose will shape the world for generations to come." As the guardian's words echoed in her mind, Alara felt the weight of the decision before her. The old order had been broken, and now, she had the power to create something new. But would the world accept a new path? Would the guardian stand by her side as she embraced the duality of magic? With a deep breath, Alara stepped forward, her heart steady. "I will not seek to control the magic. I will embrace it, as it is, both light and dark, creation and destruction. Only by accepting its true nature can we restore balance, not by holding it back." The guardian nodded. "You have made your choice, Seeker. Now, the trial begins." Suddenly, the world around Alara began to twist and warp, light and shadow swirling around her in a chaotic dance. But Alara stood firm, her heart filled with the understanding that only by accepting both sides of magic could she hope to restore the world. As the trial raged around her, Alara raised her hands to the sky, calling upon both the light and the dark. Her power swirled around her, a force of creation and destruction, but now in harmony. The crimson magic that had once threatened to tear the world apart began to settle, the storm of energy calming as it flowed into a new order. The land began to heal. The cracks in the earth closed, and the distorted sky cleared. The valley, once so fragile, now stood strong, restored by Alara's understanding of magic's true nature. The guardians watched in awe as the world slowly returned to balance, not as it was before, but as it was always meant to be. Alara's journey had not been about control or resistance, it had been about acceptance. And now, the world had been reshaped, reborn in a way that embraced both light and dark, creation and destruction. The path was unclear, but one thing was certain: Alara had become the seeker, and with her choice, she had restored harmony to the world. Today's story ends here. See you later.